last year or second to last year.
Everybody stand for the pledge. Matt, lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is he on? Is he joining? Yeah, yes. All right. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion whether to approve, deny, or.
I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, first on our agenda, we have boot camp. CEO of the Council Bluffs Chamber, and
Alicia Friesco.
presentation to the board on the agreement for the workforce development services. Drew, Alicia, you're up.
Chairman Wickman and board, thank you very much for giving us the time to speak today. But to start, just really thank you for giving us not only the FY 2022 appropriation for workforce development in the amount of $50,000, but also looking at the continuation going forward in FY 2023 for $50,000 as well for the funding of our program. And as you'll see with Alicia's presentation and talking about some of the great things that she's doing, we have a lot of exciting programs and initiatives underway for the workforce development program. It's ever growing. I think every week we have something in each other's mailboxes that we're adapting or changing or doing something internally or externally or both. And it's just a really exciting time to be working in this field. While there's a ton of challenges, it's something that it's really fun to be able to take those on and take the bull by the horns. And one thing I'll say before I turn it to Alicia to talk about it is we have the right people in the right seats. Not only do we have what we have at the chamber, but we have partners at Iowa Western Community College, the new leadership there. You might they're now just kind of filling in all the different positions and realignments that have occurred there. And it's been really important because they're a key partner of ours as we look to do the training and the workforce development programming throughout the county. Also, other key partners, as you can imagine, Iowa West Foundation as a program funder, the city, the county, our other private funders as well. But then also we work very closely with Paula Hazelwood and her team to also get out and work with them not only in CV, but also in the county. So we look forward to talking to you about some of the great things we're doing and fielding your guys' questions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alicia to talk about the great work that she's been doing.
Thanks, guys. I always like to start with a recap of how we kind of came to where we are today. And so in around 2018-ish, a group of HR managers locally got together and they did some strategic studying of the community to really identify what the challenges were in our workforce. And they came up with 4 key areas. Of our employees that have participated in those surveys, they had over 33% turnover rates. So of course, we wanted to see that reduced down to a healthy 10%. We went to increase the number in our labor pool. At that point, it was estimated there was less than 66% of those who could work or working. So we wanted to look at what we could do to increase that to a healthy 80%. We went to increase our brain gain. Of those that were in the labor pool, it was estimated that less than 44% of them had any continued education outside of high school. So what could we do to get them some either college certificates or some actual on-job trainings and certifications there? And then we went to increase the number of fully funded apprenticeship programs. It was less than 10% of our local businesses had an apprenticeship program, which is a great way for us to recruit and retain associates and residents who house in this area. So they did come up with a workforce ecosystem with some programming that they wanted to see developed to start targeting those key areas. One of them was they wanted a workforce lunch and learn, which we do have those successfully held now every month. With a new individual that will come in per month and kind of educate our HR managers on either tools, resources, or ways that they can retain their associates and recruit new associates to the area. We went to develop some personal development or some professional development series, which we now have 4 of those available throughout the year, and so we'll talk a little bit about those later on. We wanted to ensure that our community was a work-ready certified community, which we are certified now. We were able to obtain that within 1 year of deciding that we were going to do that. So that's through ACT, so we are a work-ready community. We wanted to create new areas of talent pipelines and open up those doors for our businesses and kind of educate them on where those talent pipelines are and how they can reach them. We wanted to create an employee satisfaction survey, which we did. We actually are getting ready to celebrate our 2nd year of that. That's Unbelievable Workplaces. We'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly. And then we want to create some mentorship programs to help bring those that have left the workforce back into the workforce. So one of the first things that we did was really focus on our job board. and ensure that it's a place that all of our members can post their jobs and that our residents can find employment through our membership. And so we typically have around 80 to 100 posts per week, jobs that are open in our community, with around 500 to 1,000 views of our residents that are looking for those jobs there. We also have a newsletter that goes out every Monday, and we have 105 right now, typically, give or take, because of course individuals will fall off that newsletter once they find employment. So we like to see that those numbers continue to stay steady, and that gives us an opportunity to reach the individuals in our community that are unemployed but actively looking to either find education or employment. As I said, we are going on almost 2 years now of our workforce lunch and learns, and so those have 10 to 20 participants per month. And the participants, I think, really range on depending on what the topic is and if it's something that will match their interest. Tomorrow, we've got a workforce lunch and learn, and we have the University of Iowa coming to present on some of the programming that they have that our businesses can take a part of to train and help elevate their associates to the next level to help retain them. Our professional development series took off last year. We worked with Business Ethics Alliance and MC2 to develop those. So our two most popular professional development series is our New and Emerging Leaders, which is the fundamentals of being an ethical manager. And then our second one is Next Level Leadership, which goes through the 5 levels of leadership and how to take yourself to that next level of influence. What we've discovered through some research, thanks to Gallup, is that over 1 million associates were surveyed, and 75% of them reported they left their last position because of their leadership and not because of the job itself. So it was really important for us to really look at helping our local leadership take themselves to that next level and ensure that they know how to be an ethical leader that associates want to work for. So those actually sell out pretty quickly. We just wrapped up our first New and Emerging Leaders of this year, and we will be hosting our Next Level Leadership in April, and that is almost sold out. I believe there's 5 seats left. And so another one that we have that we didn't really put into the slides, it actually was on our back page, is a new program that we were working on developing, and that's our DE&I in the workplace, which is just really important for our community to start looking at our DE&I initiatives and efforts. And so we were able to get that set up, and we have that available now coming up in May. Again, that's another one that will hold 30 of our local leaderships, and it is actually halfway sold out, and we haven't even officially announced that one yet. So our leadership is definitely taking a hold of those professional development opportunities, which we like to see. We work with sponsorships and with BE&A, as we said, to ensure that we can offer those at a very reasonable price so that it's something that even our small businesses can afford to take care of in our community. One of our other programs that we started working on last year was our Grow CB. That was in partnership with our local school districts, so with the Council Bluffs Community School District, with LC, and with CEV. Really what it is really focusing on a stay campaign for our high schoolers and letting them know the opportunities that they've got available right here in Council Bluffs by partnering with local businesses to provide them with that work opportunity while they continue to receive that high quality education that they receive in our school systems. And so with that, when they do start working through the school systems to offer internships, apprenticeships, job shadowing, etc., we then put them on a public recognition, get them a platform to recognize the hard work that they're doing, because it's not an easy feat. One of the things that we like to inform all of our manufacturers in town is that typically you cannot hire until you're 18 if you're a manufacturer, but if you're working through the school systems, OSHA actually will let you hire at 16. And so we've got some great programming through our school systems that we are seeing results with some of our employers. Another one that we just got off the ground is our CB Career Acceleration Program, and we actually have 2 forms of this program right now. So the first is our CB Career Acceleration, which is in partnership with Iowa Western Community College, and it's a wraparound service to their E2E program. So when an individual goes to take the E2E, which is a continued education program through Iowa Western Community College, and they finish with that certification, they then can come with me and I will help them set up their resume profile, get their LinkedIn profile going for them. We get them a 1-year subscription to LinkedIn Learning, which helps them to be able to continue that education that they have. And then we also put them directly into the hands of our local employers so that they know that they are going to graduate E2E with an actual career. So we're really excited about that program. We've got some great rapport from that. Our goal is to get 24 local residents through that program by the end of this year, and then hopefully move that up to 40 next year. Another spin-off of that program that we have is our CB Tech Career Acceleration Program, and you may have seen that in the news recently or in the newspapers. And that really is in partnership with AIM Institute, Iowa Western Community College, and Central Latino. So what we are targeting is our Latino population to offer them a certification course in IT to help put them into some local businesses here. So they'll be able to take 100 hours of IT courses, and on the off days, they actually will work with an ESL trainer, so that when they graduate that program, they will actually graduate with a certificate of the Foundation of Web and with ESL in their pocket in the employment realm, and then they'll work with me again on that backside of developing that resume, creating that LinkedIn profile, and getting directly into the hands of our employers. So as you recall in the beginning, we talked about creating those new talent pipelines. And so we're working with a program that actually has been put into place in a few other area chambers, including Oklahoma and Alabama, and it's been very successful. And it really was a part of their education to employment ecosystem that they developed, and that's Uscience. And so Uscience is an aptitude test that really helps you understand like where your natural skills lie and occupations that you might be able to obtain things to that you might not have known that you're going to obtain before, and then directly the course that you need to take to get to that occupation. So what education do you need, etc. And so we actually are working with Iowa Western Community College, and anybody taking their high set gets that. We've got a couple of school groups throughout TJ that are also taking that, and our unemployed residents get that opportunity as well. And so we were seeing some great success on that of some individuals that are finding new career paths thanks to that. So right now we're really working on developing our employer side. It's free for all of our employers to sign up for that, and it's a direct path for individuals seeking a job to land right inside of our employers' pockets. One of the last things we'll talk about is our unbelievable workplaces. Again, looking at the culture and the turnover, we want to ensure that employers have the opportunity to really gauge what the culture of their workforce is and their employee engagement. And so that's where our unbelievable workplaces came into play. It is an employee engagement satisfaction survey, and if they pass certain parameters that are set for them, then they become an unbelievable workplace. And so this year we actually had 20 of our businesses that had participated get that award based on their associates' responses. And so we will be celebrating them on March 30th, and they will be publicly recognized at our celebration, on our website, and through some news media. So we're excited to have that and to have that be a part of it. We had anticipated 30, but we did end up with 20, and we already have 106 of the 150 spots available for the celebration sold to publicly recognize them. So future programming, some of the stuff that we chatted about a little bit has already taken place, but we want to really focus on some relocation efforts. We do now have a relocation guide that's available through the chamber. So if you guys are looking to relocate to your businesses or know anybody that needs those, please let us know. We've got that available. We'll also start using that to try to geofence some areas that we already know high traffic here, especially visiting with the CVB, and work with them to figure out who those visitors are that we can kind of target. We're going to work on that high school retention piece that we talked about a little bit with Uscience. We've got a few other programs that we're working on with West Alabama and some things that they've seen successful that we want to implement into our community. A new mentor program that we have coming up is called LIFT. And that's a LIFT mentorship program, and that is leveraging individual female talents. So one of the things that we know is that females actually leave the workforce more than men do to bear children, take care of children, and raise families. And when COVID hit, it was actually about 65% of the workforce that left were actually women. And so statistically, 80% of women will not apply for a job if they do not have 100% of the job requirements. And so creating this mentorship program and getting them back into the network and the skills that they need to feel comfortable to apply is really important to bring them back into our workforce. That's something that we're working on, as well as continuing to just support our business members by supporting job fairs and our high school students by developing a high school job fair. On the very back page are just some resources that we've got available. We've got our employer resources that shows some of our opportunities and programmings, our job seeker resources, our students, and our veterans resources. So I know I went through that fast and there was a lot of information, so if you have questions, I'm like, I try to talk slow. I normally talk much faster.
I did want to add just one thing quick, two things actually before we open up for questions. You know, she touched on a lot of these different programs. So one thing that's I think really important to speak to is obviously you always look at workforce attraction. We need to have new people. We need to be bringing them in, but retention is just as important. So we're doing a lot of different things to make sure that those people that are currently employed in the region maintain that employment. So that's something that's really important that I really wanted to make sure we focus on, and why you'll see a lot of these programs specifically targeting that and really kind of making sure we're hitting both sides of those attraction and retention pieces. Also, one thing we didn't talk about in here, but we also do, we get called in by Paula quite a bit to say like, hey, we're looking at project XYZ. They need this many people, this the skill set they need, this the sector they're in. Can we talk? And we get on a call. We have those conversations. We try to help stem some of their possible trepidations and a little fear they may have about being able to hire those people. We just work with them as much as we can. So that's something, goes back to what I said early on. We have a good working relationship with them, and we do everything we can to help with them, not only with the retention of jobs at those existing industries, but also attracting the new ones to some of these exciting new opportunities that are being created here in the community. With that, welcome any questions you may have.
So how does this connect? I know it's a weird system we have with Iowa Workforce Development.
Rachel and Randall and others at Iowa Workforce Development work hand in hand. They're always doing stuff together. Randall's involved on just about everything we do, and you can speak specifically if you'd like to, Alicia, to some of the things that he's specifically on. But for example, we've kind of taken up this initiative to work with refugee population to try to help them get into the workforce. He's integrally involved in that. He's integrally involved in a lot of different things, and that's really our boots on the ground is Randall within the Iowa Works office here in town.
Okay.
Did you have any other?
No, Randall's actually on the workforce board that we have available, and so he's a part of kind of all these programmings. It's great for us just because we are funded through county and private. We actually have a little bit more of a reach and opportunities to help our residents and our businesses, whereas Iowa Workforce Development is a little bit more, their program is kind of set by the state, and what they can do is set, so we're able to work together in partnership to kind of reach a broader audience.
Did Iowa Workforce, or how did Iowa, didn't Iowa Western get two grants for two different programs out there?
They're developing some space in Harlan and Missouri Valley for different trainings and different key sectors. Yeah, that was just in the news. And that's an exciting opportunity. Dr. Kinney's really gotten out and drummed up a lot of that, not only the financial resources, but also just the support to build up those programs and expand their reach.
And they actually have reached out to me recently, Libby did, and we're working together right now. Hopefully I'll be able to bring the CB Acceleration Program into the tail end of those programmings to ensure that those individuals really set in what it looks like to join the workforce successfully.
How much does housing affect how many people we bring into here? That's got to be huge right now.
It's a major issue. I was just talking about this with someone yesterday, and housing and workforce go hand in hand. And it's one of those things we're having conversations all the time with what can that look like with developers? What can that look like for existing infill? And there's a litany of different people that need to be involved in those conversations, as you can imagine, depending on if it's new greenfield or if it's brownfield, grayfield, infill development. So we're always having those conversations. There's resources available at the state. A lot of the times those are your workforce housing programs, but IFA, Iowa Finance Authority, also has some resources available. Frankly, we do need to be doing more. We're a little bit behind on what our housing stock is on any given day. I was talking to someone yesterday, I think there's 7 houses available in CB proper. So I mean, it's a challenge. But obviously, not only do you need housing in CB proper, you need them in the outlying communities, because there's a ton of people that would much rather live in Trainer or Oakland or wherever it may be, and they need to have those equal opportunities in those different areas. So it's really important to be working, in this case, largely with Debbie Durham and her team at Iowa Economic Development Authority, Iowa Finance Authority, as well as locals, to really see what that looks like. But also, I know the work you guys are doing right now with the city on the land use plan, that's going to be important too, to obviously strategically figure out where we need to put some things, whether it be multifamily, kind of the row houses, medium density, or single family owner occupied. We need the full gamut.
Nice.
Alicia.
Yeah.
Alicia.
Either.
Okay.
I'll go by either, Tim.
Tell me what DE&I stands for.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you. Talk a little bit about your efforts outside the city limits of Council Bluffs.
So I actually work hand in hand with Haram, the Omaha chapter, and with Omaha Chamber quite a bit. So we are fully aware that, of course, when it comes to our workforce, it's very fluid, and the river does not matter to our workforce. There's about 13,000 residents that travel to and from Omaha to work, and so we want to ensure that that's a back and forth, and we work together to develop those programs.
How about the small towns? What are your efforts out there?
So with the small towns, like Drew said, we work a lot with Advanced Southwest Iowa, and Shalimar is really a good contact for us. She's able to reach out to those small rural areas and get them involved in some of our programming that we have, and also get us a reach into those residents.
And on that point, one of the things we did as a team, both Advanced Southwest Iowa and the Chamber team in the month of February, is we did one of these, the same DE&I trainings we're offering in May. We offered those to our team members, and Shalimar was obviously involved with that. One of the biggest things that we talk about all the time with this is you have to meet people where they're at. You can't try to force things on them. So one of the things we're really trying to do is figure out what this needs to look like and how we can best implement it in a broad cross-section of places. What you're gonna do in the rural parts of the county may be very different of what you're gonna be looking like in Council Bluffs proper. So that's something we have to continue to have conversations, and we rely heavily, honestly, on Paula and Shalimar, being that they're boots on the ground for that, to have those conversations. And we've even been able to, not specifically with DE&I, but in other instances, Shalimar's been very helpful in saying, hey, we need to share these resources and this information. Let's have something out at the office in Oakland and bring people out there. And it was for our labor shed is what it was for in that case. But it's something that we have those relationships in place. We're very much in the preliminary stages with that, as I said, because we want to make sure if we're going out and we're bringing those things, those can be sensitive topics. So we want to make sure that we're doing it in the right way and we're not forcing it on people and we're meeting them where they're at, like I said. So that's an important process to identify the best way to do that.
Clarify one thing for me, Drew. When you mentioned that you work with Advanced Southwest Iowa, are you saying that when we know we have a business coming in?
Yes, when there's one that's already, hooked line and sinker, developing building in the community, and also when they're just looking around. Paula and I were just on a call about 2 weeks ago with someone that has a potentially large project in the community, and her and I were sitting and talking, and Paula obviously had a lot of the information with sites and lands and development and infrastructure, all those different things that you expect her to be an expert in, and she is. But then I talked a lot about the workforce and some of those other pieces, policy, things like that. So those are things we play very well together, and her and I, when we're on those calls, or if Alicia's on them too, we get along very well, and we really play Pottawatomie County and Council Bluffs very well for those individuals. I know they've said that they were impressed with how things were handled and they enjoyed working with us.
Cool. So we got Arts, which is doing an expansion out there in Shelby, which they're gonna, I think the number was around 100 more employees. And do we have that kind of capacity to fill those kind of jobs? I think OSI was looking at an expansion project, and you got the one on South 24th Street. I don't know how many employees. Yeah.
When you look at our labor shed, it kind of gives you a whole broad of our whole area, including the metro, including Omaha. And so when you look at the number of unemployment residents that we have and the number of our labor pool, we definitely have individuals that aren't currently in the labor pool that is just a means of tapping into them and ensuring that they know what opportunities are available for them, making sure that transportation and childcare, that's something that we're also working on. It's a huge factor for our workforce, and it's something that we're really far behind in, unfortunately, compared to some other parts of Iowa and Nebraska that really affect our labor, our workforce. And so when we're talking about those rural areas, how do we ensure that they've got transportation? How do we ensure that they have childcare? And so those are some projects that we have going. We've got the P4C committee, and we're also working with the Omaha Chamber on our Connect Go Getting to and From Work project to ensure that we're starting to bridge those gaps and provide that transportation or those support systems for our workforce.
So is there a report that shows the amount of job openings that are sitting in the queue out there, like monthly?
Yeah, you can pull that at any given spot in time. You just have to set the parameters and what, sorry?
Does Randall have it?
I would say it's through Randall's programming, and then you can look at our labor pool through the labor shed, and I can send you some links to those if you'd like to see directly how to pull that.
Is that pretty, you think it's pretty accurate then?
Iowa's a little behind, but it's as accurate as it can be.
It's as accurate as it can be with the information given, but I can tell you that there will always be more jobs out there than there are people to fill them.
Okay,
That's a consistent thing.
thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Thanks for the presentation.
Drew and Alicia, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, next up, Jason Slot. Wyatt. EIT,
Yeah.
and decision to award the bid
No
for the
apostrophe
courthouse
on
air
sheets.
handler replacement project. Jason, want to go on up?
Apostrophe on the it's.
Thank you.
And a period. Oh, yeah.
So this proposal's to replace the last six remaining original air handlers in the courthouse. Currently, we're utilizing 20-plus-year-old DX air conditioning units on the roof that use R22, which was phased out in 2010. R22 is becoming harder and harder to obtain and more expensive too. And this would replace those as well. The air handlers are 40-plus years old. It would be a lot more energy efficient to get our things switched over to our chilled water system. Would you like me to?
Are they from the original building?
Yeah.
77?
Yeah.
Was, yeah, 20, or 45 years old.
So, do you guys want me to read the bid tab?
Well, I don't know, it's here, it just flips sideways is the only thing.
We all received that.
Yeah, and that's for 6, huh?
Yes.
Okay. And how long was that, project, once they start doing that?
We're looking to wrap it up in April of next year.
Yeah, we've left the schedule a little bit open to help out with some of the shortages that we're seeing in the market, and also just working through the challenges of phasing with this, because it all serves existing spaces. So that's gonna be one of the challenges that we work through during construction that we'll make sure everyone's on board with as we start to propose those dates. But April was the date that we kind of settled on to be
When
completed.
would you start?
Well, we'd get started right away in terms of ordering units and everything else. There's gonna be some coordination that has to happen with the addition project, because one of the pieces of the addition is to get another chiller set. So there'll be some coordination there. We anticipate the first air handlers will be fully, like the heating ones will be installed by the time winter comes. And then we do the chilled water ones during the winter, but that's still very preliminary as we work through the phasing.
Is this your preliminary schedule that's on here that we received, or is that one of the contractors?
Which one? I'm not sure what you're looking
I
at.
only saw one on here, I think.
I sent them what you sent me.
Just the bid recommendation letter. I don't think we. So this schedule was proposed, okay, so the schedule you're seeing was part of, I believe Waldinger proposed that schedule.
Okay.
That wasn't an agreed upon schedule, that's just what they were looking at. We will have a schedule
Similar to that.
to, yeah, similar.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Ray Martin's pretty aware of the current situation and the condition of the project area and all that good stuff.
They are. Fortunately, we've been able to work with Ray Martin in our past project with the courthouse renovation. And we'll be working with Ray Martin in the courthouse addition as well. So coordination should go smoothly.
This is, excuse me. This is a little more expensive than you thought, right, Jace?
It is. The initial cost projection was $954,700. We're about 28% above that. But, equipment isn't getting much cheaper.
Yeah, we've been seeing some pretty astronomical inflation across the board. I mean, I was talking to one of our more cost-effective manufacturers we work with a lot. They've been 34% inflation in the last 12 months. And they're projecting at least 1% of inflation per month for the rest of the year at least. So unfortunately, it's a very difficult time to do any sort of estimates cost-wise right now, and it's not gonna get any better in the short term.
With Ray Martin being fairly comfortable with the situation up there, we can get through this with no change orders.
That'd be the hope. We've worked with them pretty closely in developing the original numbers on this, and we're developing the scope. So we anticipate it being very well coordinated to start with, but it's an existing condition. Sometimes you run into some challenges that are unforeseen. We we believe we have a really very well-defined scope currently, so we don't anticipate any, but it is an existing facility.
What's your recommendation, Jason?
I recommend we move forward with it rather than putting it off. It's only gonna get more expensive.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So is
I'm
this, just one other question, so is this, was this an item we had in the budget then or not?
This was something we had talked about in our capital improvement discussion.
Okay, is this, what placeholder number did we use, the 900 something?
I'm not sure what we used for that.
I think it was 954.
Okay,
I think it originally started at 5, and then we knew that wasn't gonna be close, and bumped it up and short-landed.
okay.
Are we gonna be able to keep what's up there running for the summer, okay?
That's the intention, yes. Sure.
That's what I'm told.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion for Jason or Wyatt?
No, I mean, you know, like where we're pulling funds from and all that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. There you go, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you,
guys.
Jason.
Thank you. Was he able to get that rock, by the way?
Yeah, it looked good. Yeah, turned out really nice.
Was,
But we're gonna get some delineation markers around that area and, we'll probably open it up for parking here soon, so.
okay, cool. Thanks for your help with that.
On the rock or not?
No, we were gonna utilize that rock area for construction staging purposes. They're running out of room over here in front of the building, so they're gonna need some extra room to store some material and some equipment.
Right?
On
On the gravel.
the lot, we intend to let them use it until we need it to take it back from them.
Okay, I think there's a timeline.
Okay,
So you said there, yeah, we just need to make sure we know what that is.
okay,
What temporary means, I guess, is.
right. Well, I'm sure any amount of time is much appreciated by McElhenney right now, so.
Was that you that told me that? Till we get a CO for this, the new
I think
building?
that was the agreement, right?
I'm sorry?
Till we get a CO for the new building?
Correct.
Does that need to be, and I don't know what they're gonna store in there,
We
that
just
there's
need to
a,
verify that, 'cause that came
I
up
don't know,
earlier. So make
use
sure
the
we're all on the same page.
word
I
sterilized,
think it's work.
that rock so we don't have any kind of
Probably.
things growing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we'll probably have to put some, weed killer or something out there on it so it doesn't get overgrown.
Well, I mean, once you do that, it pretty much keeps it from happening, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't want it to look,
Right, yeah, and the city is not gonna put up with it either, so we need to
well, I don't
keep
even
it
wanna have
clean
that
and maintained.
conversation.
So, yep.
Okay.
They'll have tractors back and forth too, won't they?
Possibly, yeah,
Hauling stuff back and forth.
yeah, well, they've got material over there, so I expect to see some traffic.
They can use skid loader to not, stir things up.
Yep,
Okay, all right, thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Next up, we have Mark Shoemaker, Director of Conservation. Discussion and/or decision to approve and authorize the chairman to sign. Number one would be a farm lease with Greg Hotsey for property commonly referred to as a Wheeler Grove Conservation Area. Mark, you have any comments on that?
No, it's about 23 acres, and we adjusted the price up to $275 an acre for that lease. We did the same thing for Farm Creek, which is the next one.
Okay.
This is for a 2-year lease, and then at the end of 2 years, then we typically try to bid it out to see if there's any other younger farmers out there, or young farmers. I know Craig is a young farmer, to see if they have an interest in farming that.
So, I'll second it, but, so does it, I didn't see it in here. Does it allow, on these type of farm leases, do you not have to give something with, I don't know what it would be, I mean, give notice each year to the farmer?
Yeah, not for the 2-year lease.
Okay,
At the end of 2 years, yeah, we would in September.
you do give them a
Yeah.
notice, okay. what, are these, mostly, row crops? that are
Yeah, corn and
used
beans.
on- Okay. What was the rate prior to this new rate?
$2.25.
It went up $50, huh?
Yeah.
Is that kind of, do you go to the NRCS offices to get kind of a,
Yeah, we kind of look at around, see what the, kind of the average is, going rate,
okay? Sounds good,
and we discuss that with the tenant also.
okay.
Those funds then go to conservation for.
Into the acquisition fund, yeah.
Which one did you call?
Acquisition, or in our reserve account.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions for Mark on lease number 1?
I'll second the motion.
Very good. Scotty already seconded that one.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The second is a farm lease with Craig Hotsey. Doesn't give me an actual location. Where's this second one at, Mark?
That's at Farm Creek,
Farm Creek? Okay.
and it's about, about 75 acres. So move.
Second?
Yeah, that one.
So,
Thanks.
this would be his third and fourth year of farming these then, or? is it
Yeah.
more? Okay.
Yeah.
They're some of the best farmers out there.
Hotsies?
Yeah, he's really good to work with. We have certain conditions on there as far as land management, staff, conservation practices that he really, steps up and he does those for us, so.
Sounds good.
Any other questions for Matt or for Mark on that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Next up, moving on, we have Sherry Dahlheim and Dr. Chris Elliott. Discussion and a decision on an on-call policy revision. Sherry and Dr. Elliott, you're up.
Sherry's gonna go ahead and start it off, I think.
Okay, so we had the recent meeting regarding the unclaimed policy that we approved. We've had some issues with a current policy for removals of individuals by funeral homes, where a funeral home has made a proposal regarding their on-call responsibilities and wanting a reimbursement for that to cover expense for them in the event that they do not keep the individual for the funeral services. Estimated cost, a high estimate to start would be about $3,000 a year on our part, where they would bill us $150 per removal in those cases. And then we would pay them that fee.
What was the $3,000?
A high estimate yearly
Oh.
of what it would cost us yearly.
So we
for
may
that.
have 20 of these, maybe a year, which is kind of a high estimate, and at $150 each is kind of where that's coming from.
When there's no ability to recover monies.
Well, no, that's in the event that another funeral home takes over disposition of the
Do
individual.
we bill them that $150 then?
No, we would bill, no. I mean, because as it currently stands, the funeral homes charge the families for the removal. So they have to publish a price list, and right now they're at $495. So they pass that cost on to the family. So if there's a possibility that the funeral home could bill the receiving funeral home the $495 as well. And then that funeral home passes that on to the family. It just creates a.
Yeah, just to be clear, these are only for, if we go out to the scene and the family or loved ones don't have a preference funeral home. Usually we'll call them and then they'll pass that on to the family. But it's kind of come to an issue the last year or so because one main funeral home in town dropped out of the call schedule and the other one does a lot of it. And so it's been a little bit of a pain point. In the past, I think the way it's worked is they've just billed each other. And as far as we know, it's never been a problem getting reimbursed from the other funeral homes. But at this point now, the one funeral home that's staying on call pretty much every day feels like they don't want to do that anymore. And they want us to just reimburse them for that cost. And so they don't have to bill you know, if the family does choose another funeral home. So they take it back to their location, obviously, and then the other funeral home has to pick it up from them. They'd like us just to be the middleman, or I guess the fee schedule, and pay them directly.
So then how do we get reimbursed for that?
We don't.
Well, in the past, you know, it's not been an issue, and we haven't planned on, but if, you know, the county would like us to, you know, I suppose there'd be a way for us to bill for it then, you know, the receiving funeral home to be reimbursed possibly.
So that receiving funeral home would be billed possibly twice, once by the funeral home that did the removal and then once by us.
Well, are we required to do this by state code?
Required to do what? I mean, the billing or have bodies picked up? Because, I mean, I would say yes, if you're, you know, we can't just have deceased bodies lying around, so, I mean, we're gonna have to contract with somebody, to get to get it done.
You know, if one funeral home picks it up, that's $150. They transfer the person to another funeral home, we're stuck holding 150? I mean, that's not right. I mean, that can't be.
Well, I don't see any issue with us billing. I mean, I think Sherry's concerned about double bill. I don't think that actually is going to be an issue, because my understanding is that we've got the one funeral home, they just don't wanna deal with the other one, right? So if we want to, we can just say, here's our cost, and bill them. I don't really see any legal impediment to it. I don't know if you're talking high end of 3,000 a year. I mean, I don't know if that's worth the time that it takes to do that. You know, I mean, at some point you have to decide if it's worth, new procedures, billing, time, all of those things, but those are not legal questions. Those are just what do you want to do? My concern when I initially saw this, proposal from the funeral home that's still on call is that they wanted to be paid for all time. If they're called, they get paid. And we said, well, that doesn't seem right, because if you've got the funeral, why would you be billing us? I said, no, that's not what we meant. I'm like, okay, well, that sort of takes care of vast majority of the pickups. Then we have, I don't know, what we think, 10 maybe unclaimed bodies through the year.
Yeah, I
Ish.
think at most,
That's
you know,
the
usually
high
3
as
to
well.
5, honestly.
That new policy on, cremation, that we've already dealt with that, so that sort of takes care of that. So this sort of leaves probably 15 to 20, bodies a year where we're having to figure out what to do.
Because we really only have one funeral home that picks them up in town here.
There is another option, you know, that there's a trade company in Omaha that's willing to do it, all bodies, but I guess we just felt like, and then they pass, the fee on to the family or the funeral home, so to speak, and we don't have to pay them anything. But we just felt like if everybody's gonna be kind of coming from Omaha and passing things around, we have one funeral home that's established in town, it seemed like it's worth keeping them doing it right now anyway, for the amount of money we're talking about. Goodwill to the
Is there
community,
any way to recover
you know.
that 150?
Well, there's a way to recover it if we bill, the receiving funeral home. And I don't see why we couldn't do that, Sherry. I don't know as far as the processes and procedures, would it be onerous? Would it be a big deal?
I don't think so. I don't. I mean, because it's gonna be nominal as far as the amount,
Well,
the
if they're-
number of cases.
Yeah, if they're billing us, saying, here's 150 because this other funeral home picked them up, well, then obviously we just photocopy that, I would think,
Right.
with an invoice and send it off. I mean, I think that would probably,
Mhm.
And we're gonna try the other policy for 1 year, correct? Can we try this for a year? That work?
that was the conversation I had with the
Yes.
funeral home, is like, we will reevaluate in a year. If this is a big pain, then we'll look at doing something else.
I'd make a motion to do this with billing them out for a year, and let's see where we're at. Let's revisit it next year, see exactly where we're at. Does that work?
Just to note that in that proposal, they said $75 per bag, body bag. Now, in the previous policy, that was to be included by the funeral home. A bag's not used on every removal. I get bags that cost for $16 and change each. So I am happy to provide the bags.
Let's just do that.
I would meet in the middle on that and provide the bag.
So do you give them a certain amount?
We'll provide them at the scene.
Okay.
My staff
okay.
always has a bag with them anyway in the event that, certain circumstances happen.
Has that been revised in this?
No,
All right. Why don't you revise it, bring it back?
bring it back.
I don't know, what's the feeling of the board? What's the pleasure of the board? What do you want to do?
Well, I want it to be approved with the right language in there, I guess.
Yeah, so do I.
It did say that she'd provide them in that policy, correct?
No, I thought you said it didn't have that in there.
I'm sorry.
I
It
thought you said
did.
it didn't have that revision in there. The revision for the $75 bag thing.
The one, no, I just have the proposed. I don't have a revision that includes the bag
The
situation,
funeral
no.
home said if they provide them, they get $75, and then she said she could provide them.
Right. The current policy states that the
Right,
funeral
I'd
home
rather us
provides.
just say that if you're doing our work, you're using our bags, period. You don't get it used,
I did revise the policy. It used to say that they provide the autopsy
Correct.
tags and locks. We do that now, so I revised that we provide that because that's our responsibility to put them on anyway. So providing the bag, I think, would make sense.
So I think it is revised.
The bag's not in there.
Does it include the removal fee on the revision?
No.
All right, bring that back to us. Okay,
Okay.
any other questions?
no.
Good.
Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for your work on this.
Well,
Hopefully it'll all work out.
Appreciate it.
Well, we'll know in a year from now then. Is it?
We like quite the diverse, subject sometimes in the meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we talk about workforce and we
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
move
head
on
bodies.
to, let's move on to Matt. And, next up, we have Matt Wyant and Amy.
Hutflis.
We need this building so they don't die, we'll be fine.
Discussion and or decision for review and or approval for the public health building. I don't know who's gonna take it forward, Matt, you or Amy?
I'll start off taking it forward. I sent you over the draft version of the RFP for general contracting services for the public health building. Again, this is a part of the process that we will utilize as we work through with this project. It's not one big hard bid that goes out. It's a number of RFPs that will go out, but each and every part of it will see the RFP process happen and contractors are able to bid in on it. Now this is, for this specific one, is to bring us on the general contractor who will work with us, and Amy can go into a little bit more detail about kind of the process that they've utilized in seeing better results as far as change orders coming through, being able to stay on budget. You actually have a general contractor right there working with you. They should know the market demand on supply, materials, what we can do, what we could change over to make it more cost efficient to actually see the project happen. And so we're excited to reach this point in the project to get this out there. And so the process that we'll use is that and it's kind of described out there, the RFP schedule on the front page, is that we'll get it published in the non-paral. There's also a list of invitee or specific general contractors that we're gonna send it out to. Proposals will be due back on March 25th. Evaluation of those proposals will happen on the week of March 28th, and then we'll do the interviews on Thursday, April 7th. That will be, again, a team of us from the building group. We'll sit in on those interviews to hear more specifically from the general contractors themselves. And then our recommendation will then be brought to the Board of Supervisors for approval at the end of that process, just like we did with the architecture firm when that happened. It worked really well. It's been working really well. We're excited to have this style of process going on. It seems to be kind of the shift in what everybody's doing. It is more labor intensive because you do have more RFPs coming out. Part of the value that Field Day brings to us on this is they are able to get all those RFPs together, organize and back to us and keep us on schedule on that side of it, so, well, yeah, Amy.
Do you have any specific questions on the
Well,
process?
I guess I have a couple. So we're gonna hire a general contractor similar to what we've got out here in Mako. They're considered a general contractor, right? And then we're gonna tell them that it's gonna be broke down into whatever electrical, plumbing, windows, whatever, bricks or whatever. This is who your supplier or builder's gonna be. Is that?
So this process will get us to get a general contractor on board that will help us throughout the rest of the design. And when it comes to when the design's finished and we're ready to put the thing out to bid, that will be a hard bid. That will go out to the street to everybody. So all of the subcontractors, all the trades, those are, those are the same kind of process that you've maybe done before at that stage.
Well, we would have done it, we would have had I guess the engineer would have done that. We wouldn't have broke and went out and done that. We hired the engineer and then they bring in the bids for the general, for the whole project, right? That's how we're doing it now, or have been done it in the past.
Okay, well,
Is that right?
That is how we've done it in the past. It's been a lump sum bid.
Right. That's what I'm trying to.
yeah, so this would not be a lump sum, like when we go to contract with a general contractor, it would be a cost plus contract. It's not gonna be a lump sum situation where, everyone's making their this is the best, most transparent way that we have found in our process, so that the cost is what it is, and then you have a negotiated fee for the general contractor, but it is competitive,
So is there something also in here that, I'm just trying to, I guess, keep everybody's hands on the table. If they disclose, if they have any relationships with the generals or anybody, the other parties to the contract?
So that was brought up after the last meeting, by a contractor that was in here on there. And it's all described out here, and even if the general contractor wants to bid on work themselves, they have to go through the same process that everybody else has to go through. So I don't know that there's any relationship or not that is going to say, that, it's an RFP process. So whether or not you have a relationship with that person, I don't understand how you're gonna get a hand up in the RFP process when it's all sealed bids.
So when you go through the RFP process, do you always take the lowest number then? Is that what the deal is?
you wanna, lowest qualified number is typically what we wanna do.
Okay.
It's just like.
Cause you might have someone that's low that missed an entire part of the building
And that,
on their bid.
that makes it, you do have relationships out there no matter what in the construction field. So,
Well, yeah, everybody,
You got it,
this is
and-
kinda small,
right.
everyone knows everybody.
Correct.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
That specific complaint that was brought up actually 15 years ago when the 100 block construction was happening, the exact same style, and there's no foundation to it, so.
And then, they all use pretty much, it seems like the same supplier. So the supplier gives them X, the bid, and then it's.
Well, if you look across,
Unless they take their labor or have some other way to do it, I'm not, how many RFPs do you think will go out after we hire the general then?
Half a dozen.
yeah,
Go out after that?
There wouldn't be, so the general will put it out to bid once we have the drawings completely done. They'll put it out for hard bid, and then we'll get all of the, so that wouldn't be an RFP process at that point. We would have all of these bids to decide from. We'll have the general kind of like go through, qualify them, make sure that nothing is missed, and then we'll present that to the board with like a recommendation of like, okay, these are low, these are qualified, they have everything in their bid, you know. And that's what we typically do. Are you okay with using these folks? That sort of thing. Now, when part of our process and that's built into this RFP is one of the questions they have to answer in their proposal is whether or not they self-perform any work. So if a general contractor, say they have like a concrete division, they have to disclose that in their proposal, and they have to also disclose how they are going to be transparent about that and competitive. And what we typically, I don't know that I haven't seen it presented differently, but what everybody typically does, well, first of all, we want to see how they answer that in the proposal. It's kind of part of our, you know, qualifying all of them. But what typically happens, and what we will require to happen, is that if they're gonna say they want to self-perform, or they want to, you know, request to self-perform concrete or whatever the trade is, they have to turn in their bid like a day, 24 hours before all the rest of the bids are due from everybody else. So there's no question, you know, and that it is all on the up and up, so.
When will the, we put the RFP out for the contractor. When does that contractor start receiving any pay for their
We will,
work?
not until they start construction. We won't recommend to go to contract with them until we have the final drawings have been completed and we have set a guaranteed maximum price. Once we have that guaranteed maximum price, then we'll present a contract. At that point, you won't see a first payment application from them, an invoice, until, you know, a month after they've started construction.
What kind of money would you suspect this, I can't hold you to it, but.
I don't wanna say anything
Okay.
on it, cause,
All right.
I mean, it's gonna put it in your mind and you're gonna be like,
I
yeah, that's what it's gonna cost me.
So,
Had it happen.
so just, I don't know that this has ever happened, I don't remember, I don't think we've ever used this type of process, but, since I've been here anyway. So what would happen if we have a similar situation where we only get one bidder?
Then we have to draw back and really figure out what it is in the market right now that would only draw one bidder to the project. And is it something that's too complicated about maybe it could just be as simple as the RFP's written too complicated, or we didn't offer enough time, because right now we're offering 2 weeks turnaround to get it into us.
Pretty tight schedule you got.
And so it could be that maybe we have to put it back out and allow for 30 days for people to get their contracts in. But at that point, I would handle it a lot like we handle the recycling center, where we go back out to some of those people and try to figure out what it was that kept them from bidding on it, and then come back to the building group and work on trying to offer some modifications to get a better presented package. But I feel like this RFP as written, I mean, we're gonna draw some bids in on it.
We won't have one bidder on this RFP. That's plenty of time for them.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
When will the project drawings be done?
Well, why do you have to answer me a question I don't remember now?
I think we're about 2 months out.
Yeah, we
About
have
2
a couple
months
more
out,
months.
you
I don't
said?
wanna, I don't
I believe
wanna
so.
say exactly, I don't remember the
Cause that was
schedule.
Todd, right, with, Ally Pointer, and I think we were around 60 days.
So then we're 90 to 120 days away from finding out what the actual cost of the building's going to be.
No, I'd say 90.
We'll get our first set of pricing from this general contractor after we get this going. We'll get our first idea of pricing at the end of April.
Yeah, but will we have electrical, plumbing, HVAC, all the interior finish people like drywall, carpeting, all that stuff?
No. So we'll get a good sense of an idea of the budget at the end of April, and then we would be out of the schematic drawings phase and into design, the design documents phase, which I believe is about 4 or 5 more weeks, and then we'll get another set of pricing. And just kind of, keep on having those check sets to like get an idea of the pricing. Now, I think that the final drawings should be done. I'm going off of memory, don't hold me to this, but I think that should be done if we keep on this schedule, like the end of September or in October. That we would be ready.
That first number you're waiting to hear, though, you should
Yeah.
be able to hear around April 29th.
I'm really nervous, Matt, moving forward with anything, spending any money until we know relatively close to what this building's gonna cost. You're aware of that, right?
We both are. We had that good conversation. Unfortunately, there are external factors that we can't control, right? What's going on in the world today? War in Ukraine, driving prices up, supply chain issues, things like that. So, that's gonna be, that initial shot on April 29th will probably be something that we have several conversations leading up to, just to make sure that there's not a giant shock value, sticker shock, obviously, to everyone who comes up. Because as we talked in the retreat, we still have that portion where, and I need to come to you guys as a board for the capital campaign portion of it, because we do have a lot of fundraising efforts out there that we need to start happening and we need to start working on. One of the things that have happened in the gift giving side of this is along with the increases that we have seen in construction costs and things like that, the philanthropy side of it is aware of those, and I think you have seen their giving kind of coincide with that. I do believe that with the money the county's already put in reserve for this building, that we will be able to go out and raise the remainder of the funds needed to do it.
Specifically for the purpose of what this building is, public health, now's the time you're gonna raise that money.
But I do need to come and get a little bit of money for a capital campaign to get that going.
Do you need it out of my money clip?
That'll be a start.
That's all we
Check.
got. Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Well,
We paid Ally Pointer, haven't we?
We started to.
Yeah. We paid Bill Day. We're close with our fee, getting closer to giving us a cost.
Motion approved.
All right, you're on.
Second.
So what's the amount that we're in already?
I think we've probably paid out around $50,000 to $60,000.
Between the two?
Yeah, two.
And do we still keep both of them on then?
Yes. Yeah, they stay on with us the whole project.
Stay on through the whole process?
Yes.
So is there a total for them then or not, or is it just?
Yes, that was, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but that was in Ally Pointer's, RFP that they got. There was a total amount for them. And then we have a contracted amount with Field Day Development with the ability to come back in and extend that if needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion for Amy or Matt? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, next up, are you
Thank you,
handling,
guys.
are you handling these
Good
Mitch.
job.
Becky Lynn, I believe is ill today.
Yep, she's at funeral today.
I think so.
So you're handling these.
Yeah, if I can give you a rundown on what each of these are for.
So if you have any questions on any of these, resolutions, Mitch is here to answer them for us. The first one is approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 13-2022, fixing a date for a meeting on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $645,000 general obligation capital loan notes.
So when do we set the date?
What's the recommendation on the date on these, Mitch? Do we have a?
Was it in that?
March 22nd, I think.
10 a.m., the March 22nd.
I'll make that motion to approve resolution
Second.
1322.
The 15th, you said?
Second.
Okay, 2 weeks.
So, do we need to have a time for that or not?
It's scheduled at the 10 a.m. meeting.
Okay, the 10.
Good.
All right, is there any discussion on this?
Nope.
Mr. Howes, you call the roll?
What was this one covering?
This was, furniture, it's like for all the various departments. The storage building that they're gonna build out for the sheriffs, Board of Supervisors IT updates in here as well.
Okay, thank you.
That's in section 1 of each one of these resolutions. Mr. Howes, you call the roll, please?
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Item 2 is to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 14-2022, fixing a date for a meeting on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $245,000 of general obligation capital loan notes.
What's this one for? Second.
Sorry, yeah, I'll make a motion, yeah.
I thought you said it.
No, I was,
This for emergency management vehicle, or
Okay.
mobile command.
Tim's motion.
And what's this loan on?
Tim's RV.
EMA, that, mobile command center.
Okay.
That, it's gonna help with that match for, the grant that we have coming too, so.
Yeah, there's a federal one, and then the city was a part of it, and then we're part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pass-through, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
So this is our chunk.
Any other questions for Mitch on this one?
Nope.
Mr. Howes, you call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Our next one is approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 15-2022, fixing a date for a meeting on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $300,000 of general obligation capital loan notes.
What's this one for?
I believe this one is the
Sheriff vehicles.
cars.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion on this for Mitch? Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Item 4 is to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 16-2022, fixing a date for a meeting on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $300,000 general obligation capital loan notes.
Mowers for secondary roads.
Okay. Second.
Any discussion on this one?
Mr. Have to do a better deal on my ditch. So maybe they'll do a better job on my ditch this time.
Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Item 5 is to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 17-2022, fixing date for a meeting on the authorization of the loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $300,000 of general obligation capital loan notes.
Some Arrowhead campground
Updates?
I'll
updates.
make that motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion on this? Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
We had to get, approval of those from the Conservation Board first, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Item 6, approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 18-2022, fixing a date for a meeting on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $120,000 of general obligation capital loan notes.
So moved.
Second.
Arrowhead Outlook.
Arrowhead, what?
Outlook area?
Okay.
Outlook, how is this essential? What do you mean outlook area?
Hmm?
What do you mean outlook?
Yeah, it's like an observation area, I believe.
Lookout area.
That's essential? Yes.
I mean, it's providing public service for an area to gather.
Okay. Interesting.
Mr. Hauser.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Oh, there's another one.
Item 7. Yeah, I'll have Justin talk about these in just a second. Item 7 is to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 19-2022, fixing a date for a meeting on the authorization of a capital loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed 90,000 general obligation capital loan notes.
So moved.
Second.
What
And
is
this
it?
is Hitchcock Playgrounds updates.
Any questions for anybody on this? Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Okay, we went through those kind of quick, but all of those were projects that we discussed in our retreat and we put in our capital plan. With these, approval of these, if we do that at the next meeting, will not raise the levy of Potawatomi County for these expenditures. So do you have any other comments you'd like to make on that, Justin?
No, well, yeah, I do.
I figured you did.
I mean, the reality is that when you look at the budget as a whole, you gotta take advantage of every opportunity you have, and these were absolute opportunities for us to manage our current, levy situation. So, I mean, costs have gone substantially up. We were able to get incredibly creative. We were able to make these things work. This is definitely gonna, be a success story when we announce our budget this year. So, thank you for everyone that was part of this, making that hard work happen. And, this is definitely a good thing for us, so.
We addressed conservation and public safety and those things.
What's that?
I said, in these, we also addressed recreational opportunities and conservation issues for our citizens and
Oh, yeah.
public safety requests.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the items that were kind of mentioned there. I mean, our vehicles that we're gonna be getting, I mean, the reality is when you look at debt service, there's a larger pool, so your dollar goes a little bit further than it does if you're just regular tax levy, so it's kind of an interesting twist there. And then, EMA had an opportunity with this vehicle, Pot County, the City Council Bluffs, we're all partnering on this. It's a big deal. It's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity there that we were able to get those funds coming into EMA, so I think we're all happy to partner on that. And then, yeah, just with conservation as a whole, I mean, look at all the accomplishments that we've had. I mean, look at where we've gone over the last, I don't know, let's start from my career here, 7 years ago to now. It's pretty awesome, the upgrades we've done. So look forward to these camping and the lookout at Arrowhead and all the things we've done. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious when you look at and Brian's aware of it, the revenues that the county has taken in for reserving our cabins, public entrance fees at Hitchcock. pandemic drove people outside. Looks like they're staying outside, so provide them the best opportunity we can.
Our parks have seen record people in them
Oh, yeah.
the last 2 years. And I believe that's still going.
Okay, did we vote on, yeah, we voted on all of us, so we're good to go. All right, Mr. Hauser, are you with us for the long haul?
No, we got one more left to.
We got,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jana?
yeah, I'll stick around, I gotta leave about by 1, I don't know how long you guys are gonna take.
Oh, well, definitely. All right, next up, sorry, Mrs. Jenna Lemrick, Director of Human Resources, discussion and a decision on the fiscal year 22-23 employee health insurance. Ms. Lemrick, you're up.
This is just a follow-up to our conversation last week where, because it wasn't on the agenda as a decision, we just need the board to vote on approving the IGHCP health plan. And then if you were going to make any changes, such as buying anything down, we would need to vote on that.
Are we doing that?
We're doing the
Jenna,
85.
I would like for you to go over these alternates with us, please.
Sure, so Jim sent this over per our request. So if you take a look at, I'm about the middle of the page where it starts yellow. That first is the original proposal with the insurance going up 4.41%. And in there, he's highlighting how much that we're putting into partial self-funding. And then the estimated reduction to our current reserve. Okay, and then we asked him, well, if we would buy it down a little bit, what might that look like? That's what your next one is, which would be a 3.28% increase to our premiums. And then he gave us a couple others too, 2.13 and 3.44 in there. But I think, and one of the things that he was talking about with us when Jim was here 2 weeks ago, that bottom box, where it talks about the claims that we're using. And here's where he, said they're okay if we buy down a little bit, but not as much as we did last year because our claims are going up. And so these claims paid, this is what we've paid out of partial self-fund. So in 1920, you see it was about 1.5, 2021, it was 1.4. And so far, July to December, it's over 700,000. And so that's already projecting to be a little bit higher than what the last 2 years have been. But we just, this is one of those things where you just don't know. It could go down and people aren't using the health insurance, or it could go up and we could have a lot of claims usage. And so I think that was good for him to put on here to talk to us about, if we're looking at buying it down, that's absolutely okay, but we need to make sure that we're still putting enough in to cover these claims.
Our last conversation was.
Yeah, so our last conversation was that we probably should just use our current fund balance that we have in, our general and in our general supplemental to pay that difference, that's a 385, 337, which is in the original proposal, and not touch any of our partial self-fund this year, knowing that, next year might be a better time for us to use that.
We levied for that 384.
We levied for it.
Yeah, that's included in our levy, or the levy that
The
we're publishing,
385?
that we're publishing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when, I just wanna make sure I understand this correctly. We're not taking anything out of our reserve fund,
Self-fund.
Nothing out of the partial self-fund.
okay,
Yes.
and nothing out of our, cash reserve.
We're gonna use the general fund that has the levy, which there's room in there to pay that cost this year. It doesn't get a specific penny if you're in the levy, if that's what you're asking.
When we went through our budget discussions, the cost of insurance was included in our final calculation for the levy.
Yes.
Yes.
So then,
You calculated on the heavy side when you did your numbers. So that was as if we did not pay into it.
right, So we're not using any cash reserve fund for this, we are, it's part of our levy.
Correct.
Okay. Wanted to make sure we got that right. That's important.
It's just if we were gonna pay down out of partial self-fund,
I don't
I don't know if you need to or not. I mean, it doesn't hurt us. It doesn't change anything. Pay me now, pay me later.
Yeah.
You can pay it now, or you can pay it later.
I've got a question.
So it doesn't matter.
On the
So
alternative
if costs go up next year,
3,
then maybe it makes it more appealing to do that next year. But it's
Mhm.
literally the same thing when you look at the 2-year span.
what was that one for?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think Jim was just giving us some options.
And I didn't understand that option.
What are you asking, Brian?
Funding alternative 3, that box on the far right, what was that put in there for?
Funding alternatives.
I didn't understand that. Leaving the fund the same and increasing the premium for the,
Yeah, I'm not tracking his
I
math.
don't get that one.
Funding can be built into premiums.
Scott, help me out with this to make sure I'm right. If we have a fund balance in the general supplemental, it can only be used for insurance.
Or anything from general supplemental, but most of it is insurance.
Most of it's benefits.
A lot of it's benefits, elections, GIS, whatever we can put into general sup, we always did.
Right.
And we have plenty in there for that.
I mean, I'm not worried. If we pay the full premium the way it is, we're fine. There's no issue. We can still.
And what's nice too is, by doing it this way too, we're also, for this year, not passing any costs on to the employees either. They gotta pay the same they paid last year.
The same meaning 11%.
I like keeping the
Yeah.
fund a little higher.
Well,
If
wouldn't
we're that
it, wouldn't it be
high
the same dollar amount as well? Because if the 385 lump is coming from the levy,
Out of partial self-fund reserve? Or just out of our reserve?
it should remain the same.
I'm okay with that.
11% on the cost.
I don't think we take it out of our partial
Total cost.
fund reserve.
Yeah,
It doesn't, it's like I
Let's
said,
talk
it doesn't
about
really
that.
matter if you do it now.
We got a
or
budget
do it
discussion
later,
plan, I
because
think,
look
don't
at the 2-year deal. If next year's gonna be higher cost, it's gonna make us feel better to do it next year, but in the reality, it's the same money, so it doesn't matter. I don't care. I think if we pay it down, if we pay down out of our reserve.
General supplemental reserve.
Yes. General supplemental reserve, not your,
Partial self-fund.
not partial self-fund.
Correct.
We could pay that down from there. And we'd still be able to help accomplish that goal too, so.
We're on track to be close to 100 over 1.5
Well, that's,
of our partial reserve.
okay, yeah, that's
Fund.
not the general supplemental reserve. What's the pleasure of the board? What do you want to do?
Take it out of our,
I take it reserve fund, or general supplemental reserve.
I agree.
84.
I'll second that.
We can do 84, whatever the overage was, yeah. Was that number accurate?
Depends on what you
Janet?
want to set your
84,000 or whatever?
rate.
That would have put us
300,
370.
330, yeah, 385, 337.
That's the number?
That's the increase from this year to last year, and that's the difference to pay out of the general supplemental.
85, 337.
All right, let me make sure we're talking the same language here. So are we talking taking it out of what we've levied to pay this, or are we talking about taking it out of fund reserve?
It's a little bit of both.
How much are we taking out of reserve?
I have the whole breakdown for our budget discussion, if you guys want it there, but
85.
Well, I guess what I want to do is make sure that Mitch has the latitude to play with that number if he needs to make it work, the way that we're trying to accomplish this goal. So,
Jenna, you'll be here part of our budget discussion, correct?
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna move this item B, 3B to our budget discussion, we'll talk about it then.
Okay,
All right,
that's fine. That gives them the,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
sorry.
No.
So what do we do
it's-
on
it's
this
okay.
one? We're gonna move it?
No, we're gonna move it. I'm
We're
gonna
just gonna
move.
move this whole item to later, so that way we can get through the budget piece and then we can vote this in.
Okay.
Cause then that'll give Mitch the ability to
Show you whatever.
show where it's at and.
Okay.
All right, Jenna, you want to be first, or do we want John first?
We'll do John first.
John doesn't have anything else to do.
All right, I'll entertain a motion under item 5B to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent J, for discussion and or decision on the purchase or sale of a particular real estate.
So move.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Mr. Howell, you call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisor Shea.
Aye.
Mel. Schultz. Groby. Aye.
Jenna, you feel free to stay here if you want to. I mean, it's not like that big a deal.
Okay,
I don't know how long we're gonna be.
I'm just gonna be looking at numbers anyways.